is Lady Myya. I am here with Dominique Brightmon. He is a self-leader, expert with John Maxwell team that empowers and equips others to tell their story. Author, and he has his own podcast called Going North. You guys, please give a warm welcome to Brother Dom over there, my Mayan tribe.
Yeah, that's right. So if I'm not mistaken, the Mayan tribe, so y'all are behind the 2012 thinking the world's gonna end, huh?
You don't think it is?
I mean, we did lose Twinkies for a month, so yeah, that so the world kind of did explode, so
Something wrong. We did something wrong. It doesn't matter. All right, so we're going to get to our questions, and he is so much fun. We're going to get to our questions, and thank you so much for joining me. And so here we go. Okay, what happened in the past that made you believe that you should be teaching?
Yes. What happened in the past that made me believe I should be teaching? It's really from a place of service, because myself and countless other people, we've gone through struggles in our lives that have really helped us to really become stronger. And when you survive through struggles, you'll have someone to teach, encourage, and inspire. We got a lot of folks out there that are teaching. Not all of them are good. I'll say that much. I won't say any names because, I want to actually spare people, at least from the nonsense. But yeah, definitely surviving through things because funny enough, the year 2012 was actually the year of a paradigm shift for me when I got into this car accident on my 21st birthday. And that crash actually was the first of many things because basically brick after brick, things just kept coming on because now I was getting into an accident on my 21st birthday. Also, my father was stricken with Alzheimer's. He was diagnosed with it, and we had to take away his driver's license. So basically had two elderly parents that were basically ill, and not to mention was holding down a part-time job while being a full-time college student. So having to balance all of that together and really finding a way to actually shift more to personal growth and become a voracious reader that reads at least 50 plus books a year to not only better himself, but better others in the process, because action is the inspiration. When people see you in action, if you put yourself out there enough, people are going to take notice and they're going to be curious. And when people are curious, then you basically give them some answers. And if they ask too many questions, you just submit them one of those random receipts like, hey, yeah, so I'm just going to slide this paper here over for you. Here's your invoice, and just need you to fill that out for a good 20 grand, help brother pay some mortgage fees, and all the other good stuff. But but yeah, that's true. That's the short. But that's the short answer, though.
Cost. Definitely.
Don't worry, it's not 20 grand. I want you to live. Come on now.
Hey, you know what? Every little bit helps, really, right? Okay. So, what was the purpose of your books?
Yes, the purpose of my books. Funny enough, there is this activity in this book called The Magic of Getting What You Want. And one of those activities was to write your own personal obituary. And a lot of students in Harvard do this because it's a way of designing your life. And one of my mentors likes to say to live your life by design and not by default. And a lot of folks these days are living their lives by default, and that leads us to basically reacting to life as opposed to being reborn and actually running towards what's going to help us get the best out of life. So in my obituary, one of the things I wrote is going to be a multi-time author and a best-selling author at that. And a couple months later, I was at this personal development conference at Toastmasters International. And for those who don't know, it's a nice little nonprofit organization where folks get better at leadership and public speaking. And I was handing out these lists to people known as the 100 books toward dynamic living, which is in book number 1. And that was my way of setting myself apart and to make myself stand out and not just standing up, because a lot of business cards, especially pre-COVID, would either end up on someone's office drawer or heck, even some random classic container, and someone called their business card graveyard, and you're stuck 2 years later wondering who the heck is this, especially if their picture's not on it. And I didn't want to be in the business card graveyard, so I made out a reading list, put my contact info at the bottom so we could share stories and trade ideas, and that can even inspire other folks to really read more, because when you read, because leaders are readers, and if you help folks to read more, they'll eventually become more if they take advice from the books they read. And one lady I had this list to, she looked at the list, she looked right back at me, looked at the list, looked right back at me, and asked me where the heck was my book. And I was 23 at the time, millennial swag, and I was like, nah, my name's not on there because I'm not an author. And mind you, this is a couple months after that obituary where I said I was going to be an author, and I was like, nope, not an author. And funny enough, she dared me. It's like, hey, why don't a year from today you write your own book? And I was like, nope, nope. And this was still after the obituary too. And I was like, nope, not going to be an author. And I'm like, what the hell am I going to write about? I'm 23. And she said, okay, well, how about we both write our books, and a year from today, we both have our books published, and we can go out and speak at circuit and all that good stuff. And she was selling it to me. It's like, DomBrightmon, author. And I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm good. And that conversation ended there. And a buddy of mine, buddy named Sean, he had a book called Burn the Box. And in the end of the book, he mentioned there was going to be a sequel. And for weeks and months, I was bothering him about it. I was like, hey, when's a sequel coming out? Because it was a few years since he published that book at the time of that moment. And when I told him about what happened in the conversation I had with the lady, he was like, hey, so this is my opportunity to get back at you, buddy. So yeah, so when's your book coming out, my friend? And I'm like, crap, yeah. So it's kind of a lesson, the fact that sometimes it takes us multiple times to get something. Because when people are sick and tired of hearing you say something, they're just then beginning to get it. And when your people are sick and tired of hearing you say something, they're just then beginning to get it. And when you finally get it is when you start finally doing something. So I finally decided to actually take action. My pen was on fire. A couple of days afterwards, after I was going to say I was going to write this book in a year's time, wrote 14 pages of content, went into a hibernation period of a couple months. That was around November 2015. So January 2016, got back up, put the pen back in my hand, and then times after work, dedicate time to writing pages and pages, and just basically got to around a good amount of content where it was around 10 or so months in when I had to get the book cover done and figure out what the hell to do next. So November, actually a month early, actually October 2016, Going North was published. And it's under 100 pages because a lot of folks, and not just in the chocolate caramel melanin community, we tend not to be readers for the most part, is that I wanted to make sure that I can make my work more accessible for other people, because we're given books to read in grade school that we don't like and that make us fall asleep. I'm guilty of falling asleep after reading 2 pages of the Scarlet Letter for the first time. And when you have books like that you don't want to read, you definitely want to give people something that is nice and easy and digestible for folks to read. So it's under 100 pages because one, at a deadline, and two, most folks don't have time for 500 pages. So it's nice and easy to read. So that's really what led to the first book, and the subsequent books led to just dealing with setbacks in life. Because the first book was published, my father had passed away after his long battle with dementia 6 months after it was published. Deal with some grief, started a podcast afterwards, went back, published book number 2, got a third book coming out later this year in 2020, and a fourth book that's going to be out by spring 2021. So the writing journey really happened from multiple angles, but from the power of accountability and action. So when you take action and you hold yourself accountable, and when you enlist other people in your own accountability to hold you to the fire, make sure they call you out in your own BS, then you'll make the magic happen.
That's true. That's very true. Wow. Okay. Yeah. So the purpose of the books were to write more books. Uh-huh. And so, no, I'm just kidding. So,
At the end of the day,
so
yeah.
what drives you every day? Is that what drives you? Just the fact that you're getting to the next book, or you're being able to just talk to people about what you have read?
Honda's actually what drives me every day. Yeah, I just say that's really what drives me every day. Honda Accords, they drive me every day. I'm just messing with you. That's not what drives me every day. There's a corn cob joke for you. But no, what drives me every day is just the fact that I've had great mentors that have inspired me. And there's heck, even one time I saw the social media post where it said, my mama worked too hard for me not to be great. And I have great parents. My father, he was always a hardworking guy, even in his 80s, still lifting heavy boxes for our church's soup kitchen at the time as a trustee for the church, still helping out the church from other highly educated women, master's degree in psychology and all the other good stuff. They worked so
Mhm.
hard and they dealt with some stuff during the civil rights era. And heck, even my father himself even was part of a sharecropper's family dealing with racism and not getting paid as much as he should have in his family
Mhm.
for crops when folks walked out with hundreds of dollars of stuff when his family was basically left with pennies. So they
Mhm.
were too hard for me not to actually contribute
Mhm.
to society. So that's really what drives me is the examples of those that have been before me and hopefully being a giant in the future for other folks to stand on. So that's really what drives me.
Right. Oh wow, that's a good drive then. It definitely. Is that a Bentley? What is that?
Oh yeah, it could be a Bentley, it could be a Maybach, heck, it could be even be a Toyota Camry, and those things are looking sexier than ever now, which is crazy. I'm like, why is a Toyota Camry looking all extra sexy now? Like, come on now.
I'm trying to hold it together, y'all. Let me try. Whew. So, how do you impact the people that follow you? Try.
Oh, good. I can't wait until you finally break out and really laugh for 5 minutes. This will
I
be
know
fabulous.
it's
It's
gonna
going to be
happen.
extra fabulous. But yeah, how to impact the people is by taking action and always posting the stuff that I feel that will inspire people. Because with social media now, a lot of folks are either thriving or metaphorically killing their careers by it. Because some folks they post their raw thoughts of social media, and folks like, I'm not following this person, let's cancel this person. And there's also the school of thought where it's like, all right, now we know how they really feel, so let's avoid them and keep going. And for the folks like myself who use social media for business, like my personal Facebook page, I share nothing but humorous memes and stuff going on with my business, the podcast, and everything itself. Because at the end of the day, I don't know a lot of people on there, and they may know more about me than I know about them. So what I'm going to put out there is what I want people to know about me and my business and what I do for people, and that's to really encourage people and to really make them laugh and enjoy life. Because if you can make them laugh, you can make them buy. And the real thing is that humor is what we all need because it's a medicine. It's a medicine because if you can make somebody metaphorically have six-pack abs making a side turn after a good laughing session, then you'll help them to keep going on. If you encourage someone to keep going on, then you'll definitely impact someone else because one good word from one good person that sees one good thing in you will help you run for a lifetime. And I intend to run for a lifetime, and I intend to help others run for a lifetime too, whether it's barefoot or with Nikes or
All
Mikey's if you
right.
buy them for China.
No, no.
I mean, if you got Mikey's, I ain't stopping you, but I mean, wear your Mikey's.
Oh goodness. I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying to keep it together, sir. All right. So, what types of talk do you do, and what is most frequently like questions that are being asked?
Yes, motivational teaching is most of the talks I give. And the reason being is because it's kind of like John Maxwell, one of my mentors in life, because his writings have changed my life. And he himself mentioned how people know him through his books before they hear him speak. And it was the same for me. And when you hear him speak, he's a motivational teacher, not a motivational speaker. Because a motivational speaker, you'll leave all riled up, excited, ready to run through five walls, five brick cement walls, and you have no idea why the heck you're excited, as opposed to a motivational teacher that gives you tools that you can use immediately in your life, like questions. Questions are a powerful tool because they desire a response. Like design your day, there's two classic questions that I try to ask myself every single day. One is, what good can I do today? Or better yet, what good will I do today? And at the end of the day, asking, what good did I do today? So if you set out to maybe give some spare change to someone on the street, if they look like they're really homeless, or really sharing a smile with someone, sharing a listening ear, especially nowadays when folks are stressed out, where it's from 0 to 5,000. We've gone past 100 in 2020. So basically 0 to 5,000 where they need a listening ear, someone to vent to, and just sharing something good with someone else and spreading that around, because having tools and really motivational teaching just giving folks a small teaching note that they can actually take with them to go
Mhm.
on and live, because this life, if you advance others, you advance yourself in the process. And
Yeah.
motivational teaching is the way to do it, because folks are tired of, I mean, yeah, we still, I mean, I still got my guilty pleasures. I'll listen to some of my pastor sermons from a while back when it was extra good, or some TD Jakes, because I still got the Black Baptist raised in me. I got that
Mhm.
roots in me and all that good stuff. But also, folks are looking for tools, tips, and techniques that they can apply to their life right now, whether it's to build a business, to keep on living, so on and so forth. So motivational teaching is what I like to do. So M and T, the misses and the
Wow.
T.
Oh, yes, more tea.
That's right, more tea, extra caffeine, right?
Yes, always put a shot in it. It's just the same.
There you go.
Definitely. Okay, so what are people saying about your passion?
Yep, some folks that are vocal, they are inspired by it, and it's like, hey, keep up the good work. And heck, even one time when I posted a photo of me shaking hands with John Maxwell himself in my cover photo, because he's one of my living heroes that's still alive. And one guy actually commented, it's like, hey, you're doing as much good work as him. And I'm like, wow, okay, that's freaking amazing. I'm like, I'm like, dude, I still not even 30 yet. And this guy's in his peak at around a good 75. So I'm like, man, it's really just stuff like that that really keeps me going, because there's not going to be cheers all the time. You have to cheer yourself up first before you even try cheering up the world, because you can't pour water from an empty cup. You can't pour tea from an empty cup. You can't go to an empty well for water. So I have to motivate myself when I wake up every day. It's like, all right, let me keep going here. Gotta use this daytime/evening time investor, known as the job at the certain place, while it's secretly investing what I'm doing now on the side, to really turn that into the full time gig where I eventually get to leave a bigger legacy for it to come, as being a part of the business of immortality known as authorship. So that's really just some of the things, and making sure it doesn't go to my head too, because the one thing about buttering people up, and the fact that the thought of us being bread is great. Sometimes I like to joke around and say that we're all loaves of bread waiting for the toaster and the butter, someone to warm us
Mhm.
up and throw some butter on us so we can really feel great. Is the fact that if if you make sure it doesn't go to your head when you do something that folks may not agree with, especially when you put your thoughts in there on the internet and folks are ready to attack you and crucify you, even if it makes perfect sense because someone's in their emotions, is to make sure it doesn't go to your head, because the same people that appraise you today will pummel you tomorrow. So
Mm.
making sure that I'm grateful, I'm always grateful for compliments, encouragement. I need it as well, but also making sure it doesn't go to my head, and making sure it doesn't go
Right.
to anyone else's head either. Because once that ego gets really huge, it's gonna fall harder than the Tower of Babel.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wow. But you know what? You're right. You're right. You're so right. Like we don't want to get a big head, about what we do. We do this because we want to help people, and not only help, just like more encouragement and and just inspiration, that we see that there may be such a major gap in that now more than ever, because like you turn on a TV, you have everything negative spouting and spewing and vomiting all over you, and here we are just white. We're just like, oh well, that was a big chunk, oh well, and we keep going, and it's like, but you're not feeding yourself with the positivity that you could be. So you got me, sir. You got it.
There we
So
go.
okay, so who were the people that most influenced you, and why? Was it John Maxwell?
Oh yeah, he's definitely one of them, because his writings have changed my life. He's one of them. Another guy by the name of Daniel Alley. He's a couple years older than me, and I first heard him speak when he was 25. Wow, I can't believe that was, wow, 6 years ago now. It was like 6 years ago I heard him speak. He gave this speech called "You Are the Boss," and he
Mm,
mentioned the three ways to act like a leader. And how to act like a leader is being audacious, contagious, and tenacious. When you're audacious, you got to be bold enough to chase after your dreams and share your dreams with others. And you got to be contagious and let other people catch some of that fire that you have going. And then you
mm,
have to be tenacious to keep going no matter what, because leadership can be lonely. at the
Yeah.
top, and heck, even on your way to the metaphorical top, because not everybody sees your vision. Not everybody
Mhm.
will buy into your vision. And not to mention, there's going to be days where folks are only seeing the tangibles and they focus on the tangible and they walk by sight and not by faith. So while you're walking by faith moving forward, there are folks behind you. Heck, even Christ with his 12 disciples, there are some that weren't as close to him as
Yeah.
Peter, and they're like, okay, we don't really believe you, sir. We believe you, but we don't really believe you. So really just having those inspirations like Christ himself, my man Daniel, heck, even friends and family, and heck, even folks like Zachary Babcock and Tony Watley. Those are two guys that are having our fellow podcast hosts, and they've done some great things. Like Tony himself, he's a Toastmaster like myself, and I had him on a show a couple years ago when he was still truly finding his voice and getting better behind the mic. And you hear him now, it's a totally different guy who's making all sorts of waves. And Zachary Babcock, this guy, he spent years in prison and he got into network marketing and then went back to prison after that. And he was able to get out of prison, actually start this podcast and turn it into a six-figure business to be able to now support his wife and kids, but also to lower the recidivism rates across the country too. So I still
Wow.
have folks that still inspire me. And while some folks may be inspired by my work, I still get inspired by people that are always growing and becoming better. And that's the main thing for folks that have role models in their life. Like, make sure they're not egg role models. You got to make sure the actual role models that are always becoming better and always growing and getting better, because those are the folks you need to be around and folks that really need to inspire you, because we all got to keep going here. We're only going through this lifetime in this form once.
No, I hear that. Okay, that's good then. That is really good. I mean, to have that type of outlook, still at, after, doing this for so long and then being around the people that you are around, like, I mean, that didn't get your head big. So that's a good thing, right?
Oh yeah, good with 20 O's even. It's good.
So like what type of work ethic is important when being the person that people want to hear from?
Yep, the key to having work ethic, the best work ethic to have is no work ethic at all. You got to be lazy all day. You got to work to be the best couch potato ever. You got to potato the couch. You got to have the whole sack of potatoes on the couch. I was messing with you. You got to have a bunch of work ethic. Like, work ethic is how things get done, because if you don't, the classic saying from, well, there's a lot of sayings from an ancient book, but this ancient book says if you don't work, you don't eat. So it's like you got to have some kind of work ethic. You got to be able to at least have the courage and the hope and the energy enough to get out there and be like, all right, I'm at least going to put some food on my table, if not for me, for my family. And also just being able to have enough work ethic to realize that hard work alone will never be enough. You have to be likable too, especially depending on what field you're in. Heck, we see with politicians, especially in the season that we're in, not to get too deep into that, but you'll see it's like you'll see folks glad handing everybody. Some folks will come at you with the smoothest lines. Heck, even one lady running for office, I was like, hey, you got some nice shoes. And I'm like, oh, she was like, I wore them just for you, honey. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, cool. Smooth talking, smoother than all the butter. I'm like, all right, that's cool. But once they get in office, then it might be a totally different story. So
Different
work
thing.
ethic, likability, and
Mhm.
sustainability is what really adds on top of that work ethic. You not only got to work hard, you got to work smart. And
Yeah.
you have to be likable enough to where you can able to connect and network with other people that will help you, because you can only go as far as your relationships allow you to go. You can't
Mhm.
really do too much alone by yourself. Like, you're going to need a team with you to really help you to be your best you, because we're all stupid at something. You got to find out what you're stupid at and hire the person that's smart at what you're stupid in and help and let them do that stupid work that's
That
stupid to
makes
you but smart for yourself, to really allow yourself to really blossom and be like the best
mm.
flower ever. Heck, even probably bigger than a camel hump even.
Okay. So yes, that makes so much more sense. It makes so much more sense. I was just talking to someone and I was just saying, like, it's just better, when you are over people, you want to make sure that you're able to, the things that you can't do, just right or whatever. Find that person that does, because everybody has something that they're really good at. Have them do that. So now everything is going to run smoothly. You get people in their talents, as opposed to just assuming or just riding with it, because the riding with it doesn't fly. Not all the time. It just doesn't, unfortunately. But it is what it is. I know that to be true. All right. So um, can you give my listeners and viewers an example of the type of message that you have been teaching?
Yes, a small little example. So I got this talk called The 70s of Leadership, and three of them are probably the main ones that you need. You have to educate yourself, examine yourself, and then execute. And sometimes I mix up the educate and the examine because they kind of go hand in hand for what I do. But the examination piece, self-leadership is my main field of expertise because we are the people that we lead first and the longest. From the cradle to the grave, you're going to be with yourself for your entire life. And we have to lead ourselves first before we can lead other people. So examine yourself. There's this method I call the mirror force yourself method, where you ask a few folks in your network, folks that you trust, to list a couple things you're good at and a couple things you can work on. And I asked a few of my friends, and I looked at all the good things, like, all right, that's cool. And some of the other good things surprised me. And under the weaknesses, one of them was antisocial tendencies, because I'm an ambivert, or should I say extroverted introvert. I gain energy by being alone, but when I'm out and about with people, it's like, hey, how you doing? Walking slowly through the crowd, shaking hands, giving hugs to certain folks, because folks enjoy hugs, especially those great platonic hugs where it's an exchange of energy and you feel great afterwards. Because there's nothing like a great hug to really keep you going. Pre-COVID, of course, pre-COVID, of course, pre-COVID, of course, for those going crazy, losing their freaking minds right now. But also just really breaking out of that shell, and heck, even getting around more people, because that thing surprised me, because I was in the middle of my growth phase, and that was a thing that was listed, that a friend of mine listed. So just taking that and working on it. So examining yourself and then educating yourself, like YouTube University, like that's the best university there is. Heck, there's this guy by the name of Scott Young. He has this awesome TED Talk where he talks about ultra learning. And get that book if you haven't read it yet, for those who love to read. Ultra Learning. He basically did MIT's educational bachelor's degree program in about a good 3 to 6 months, as opposed to the 4 years, because they had their course up there all in video form, and he can up the speed. So he listened to things at 1.5 speed, took all the quizzes and everything, and he got certified and did his degree in those few months, as opposed to those few years, because the options are out there still. The options are out there. So examine yourself, educate yourself, and execute. Because don't allow paralysis by analysis to stop you from embracing your dreams. Because heck, even myself from time to time, I'm a thinker, and I tend to be a little cerebral and like to think ahead so much that sometimes things be a little delayed. But sometimes it's better to fire, ready, and aim, as opposed to ready, aim, fire. Because unless you're actually shooting a gun, that's probably the best philosophy to go by. Because if your action is, especially if it's intentional, massive action towards what you want to manifest in life, then it'll happen. The book itself, I wrote it down, and it happened over a year later, because I was in the right place for folks to challenge me, that was put in my way by God, by the universe, or the great higher power, not weed, of course, in the right direction to really manifest my dreams. So, really getting yourself in there. That's just a little portion of what I teach. I got a couple other signature talks, but that's probably my biggest and longest one, the 7 E's, and those are 3 E's for you. Wonderful Mayan tribe, without the Twinkies, of course.
Of course. No, that is awesome. So, like, what can we look forward to from you?
Yes. So if you're one of those with a third eye and you got glasses, you'll have all 5 eyes to look forward to. October the 6th, 2020. From Crappy to Happy, it's going to be me and 24 other authors sharing inspirational stories of transformational joy. And for those who've read the book, The Celestine Prophecy by James Redfield, he's still alive, well and kicking. He wrote the foreword to this book. So this book is going to be a powerful one that you definitely want to add to your bookshelf and allow it to be self-help and not shelf-help. That's October 6th. That's coming up. Also, with my podcast as well, 3 anniversary, there's going to be awesome amounts of content as well. And episode 300 is coming up in November. So, got something special cooking for that. And even a fourth book after Crappy to Happy. So, got a few things up and running and going that I'm still working on. I still got to keep pushing and moving forward myself and not rest on my laurels, because that's when everyone's most vulnerable. After you win something, make sure you take a deep breath and keep going, because that's when you're most vulnerable. Because when we win something, folks are going to be ready to come at you. So don't let up on the gas for too long after you get a victory.
That's true. That's very true. Oh, wow. This is awesome. Dom, you are so cool. So cool. Thank you so much for joining me. You definitely let the light shine on my show, and I am so just honored that you were able to, just kind of take the time to, come to my little itty bitty show and just, grace us with your presence, sir. And so we are gonna close it out. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Lady Myya. I will see you guys later.